Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Kaiserreich, Hearts of Iron 4 version of it, which I went with that sort of intro because it really is a whole new game from Hearts of Iron 4. Just uses the Hearts of Iron 4 engine and other elements, but it is a very different world and feel, so I really like that about this. So let's get going. We're going to continue. We are trying to dig our way out of Black Monday situations here. We're still at parity, so okay, Hans von Scheck. Oh, Scheck. Oh, yeah. He died today in Berlin. He was the, historically, he was the, one of the main leaders of the German mission to nationalist China. So, why is this? We can remove this. So we've lost him as a field marshal. Okay. Sort of a bummer. Well, I think he died in 45. No, not Rome. In charge of the cavalry. Who do I put in charge of the cavalry? Okay, so they've totally taken out our possible Crown Prince William. He joined the SS. Well, let's give Papa Hoth the cavalry. Okay, food from Middle Africa. Great. So now we have the syndicalist enemies down to the south. And we're going to immediately go here. Yeah. Hey, Austria, don't worry about us. Go protect your syndicalist borders. Oh, good. We got a first batch of these, or a batch of these. Okay. Well, let's secure some of our positions way out here. This is ours, isn't it? Yes, so let's send 2 there. We have a two provincial front border. Let's send 2 over here. Yep, Austria is now faced with a enemy to the Habsburg Empire. Oh, Deutsches Middle Africa declared war on Portugal. How interesting. Yeah, if you're talking about the AI, There's a lot of problems with it. It is getting better. I don't know if you saw that, if any of you follow me on Twitter. Sorry about that. They've been making some real progress with the AI for the new version. Yeah, Goring isn't making the best choices. At least so far he's only at war with Portugal, not everybody else. Oh, you mean that? Yeah. Well, I've noticed a massive. I don't know if massive. I've noticed a noticeable level of running difficulties have happened since they've put out the Windows patch for the Meltdown and the other big security one. I forget what it was called. What is called the the bugs in the operating systems and the chips. That my performance is slowed down with the game. I've noticed that on several games. So there's some of that going on. But yeah, I'm not a programmer. I don't know. And I played a little bit of EU4. I don't even own Stellaris, so I can't really comment too much compared to those. Like I said, just a little played EU4, but not played much. And to really give it a workout. And Stellaris I don't own, so I don't really know how it's doing compared to that. Okay, we now have packs, and we want to come over here and do this. Factory output is really killing us there. Hopefully soon we will get rid of that Black Monday. And finally we can now build other things. Well, just because I'm sort of kind of worried about being cut off at some point, let's build one of these. Have at least a little bit of domestic. Okay, more food from Middle Africa, even though they're at war. Goering, are you going to lose me my African empire? I know it's just a second-hand African empire, but still. Okay, Serbia crowns King Alexander II. Since the end of the Austrian occupation during the 1920s, Serbia has officially been a kingdom. They never dared to crown a king, as they were forced to keep a low profile in light of further Austrian aggression. Pietro Bojovic, the regent of Serbia for almost 2 decades, and also a known royalist, has now decided to restore the monarchy. Alexander II, the son of former King Peter I, has accepted the crown and was today crowned the Kingdom of Serbia. Now, as I'm reading all this, I'm thinking about I don't know how much of you know about the Black Hand and the sort of Serb terrorist movement who killed the Crown Prince of Austria that led to, in Sarajevo, that led to the starting of World War I. That has got to be one of the most, how do I put it, biggest effects of a single terrorist attack ever, and I wonder whether the Serbs to this day think it was a good idea to do that. Yes, you're right. That will very much help. We want to get out of this instability. We want a stable German Empire. One that grows in time, but a stable one. And we now have a Marine Division, another one. Well, it can be sort of a semi-garrison, semi-ready to invade somewhere. Out here. So if any of you on Twitch haven't already, please follow the channel. That way you'll get notified when I am playing on Twitch. Sometimes it's like I did today, you know, put an announcement out on the YouTube page, and that definitely gets a fairly decent viewing audience. But sometimes I'm just either playing like War Thunder or other things that I decide to stream it, and I don't make a big deal out of it. So you might, you know, if you follow, you might want to know about it if you're, you know, bored at that moment, and come and hang out with me while I play other things as well too. So just a little reminder if any of you haven't already. Okay, elections of 1937. Today the German people will elect their representatives to the Reichstag. The elections have been tightly fought, and the results are awaited with much anticipation. The fate of several parties, of course, the Kaiserreich itself, will be decided today. If the Social Democrats manage to secure enough votes, the realist wing of the Social Liberal will form a coalition with them. Another possibility would be a coalition of nearly all liberals and bourgeoisie parties, the NLP, the FVP, and the Bavarian Splinter Party, BVP, don't know who those people are, against the predominance of the KDP, I think that's the Deutsche Communist Party, I don't know, led by the beloved, oh, yeah, against the predominance, led by the Letter von Vobeck. I like that guy. I admire him. Or the KDP could just continue. Oh no, the KDP is the conservative. Okay. Change. No, we're not going to change. We're going to go with the this. Oh, okay. Yeah, I forgot the guy's name who did the assassination. I know that he used a Browning pistol to do it. I know the gun's better than I know some of the people. So that's interesting. Think of all the millions of people, because you have to understand for Austria was entirely justified in going to war with Serbia over the assassination of a crown prince at the time. I'm entirely convinced of it. And had they done it within, say, 20 or 30 days, World War I would not have broken out, I do believe. Because they waited, because they negotiated, the terrorist act and the war ended up looking more, were separated enough that it ended up looking much more like a war of Austrian aggression. So it expanded out to you know, to so many more participants getting in there. And yes, a lot of the both the populace And the governments all thought, yay, great, we're going to have a war, yay. And they thought it was going to be sort of like maybe the Franco-Prussian War, sort of like some of the Napoleonic Wars. And that the armies would get out, move around, have a big battle. And you got to remember, not a lot of people died at the Battle of Waterloo, you know, as a percentage of the combatants. Most, you know, I think it's less than 20% or something of the people, you know, who fought at the Battle of Waterloo actually like died. So it's not, you know, I mean, obviously going into the Battle of Waterloo is a dangerous thing, but it's not like, you know, sure death, you know, or only half of us get to survive on the other side. No, it's like we're going to go into battle. We're going to have this exciting time. Lots of, you know, stuff's going on. And then we're all going to, you know, figure out who won, who lost, and, you know, and that's what's going to be it. That's the way they sort of thought World War I was going to be. Obviously, it wasn't, and so it turns into the god-awful trenches and other things. So you have all of the deaths in World War I and involved around that. Millions. And then you also have to understand World War II was fought over the results of World War I. In Asia as well as in Europe, though Asia's less direct consequences, but it's still some of the consequences of World War I. So you have all of the deaths in World War I, including and World War II, including the deaths in Serbia. Millions of people died in greater Yugoslavia. So all those people are all put down to that. So that is, yeah, we're going to stay with this. And so, you know, that one terrorist act is a huge world consequences. I think more than any one sort of, you know, there were a couple of people involved in it, and plus, you know, the sort of Serbian, because it was the Black Hand or whatever was the terrorist group, and whatever Serbian secret police or whatever that was sort of supporting it. So obviously a very small group of people had such a massive effect on that. Sorry, yeah, the new coalition is cool, but it means a lot of other changes. I tried that in one of the other earlier playthroughs, and I didn't like it so well. Okay. The Russian Republic, created in the last years of the Weltkrieg, appears to only last 20 years before its end. Plagued by disorder, conflict, and inefficient governments, the Republic lost the support of the people, and the Russian agencies now report that the successor of Nicholas II has finally been crowned as the new Tsar of the nation. While it is not known how different the internal or international stance of the reborn Russian Empire will be, or even if the coronation of the Tsar will have any effect in saving the country, numerous monarchies across the world have already congratulated the Romanovs on regaining their divine birthright. But I thought they hated them. Okay, well, like I said, Russians aren't terribly big on democracy. Yes, you're right about that. They were a puppet organization. So we now have new head of state there. Okay, new Vice Chancellor von Papen. So you suggest we should stay with von Papen as our head of government. We could, oh well, 60 political power. We're not going to appoint him. That's we already have Helmar Schacht. So we'll stay with von Papen. Okay, citizens leave for the Baltic. A number of the more impoverished of our citizens have taken up the offer of Adolf Frederick I, Duke of Mecklenburg-Schwerin, and moved to his Baltic domains. Manpower. Okay. That's different than what happened. Historically, they went the other way. Okay, are we having problems producing equipment? Yeah, some degree. I'm going to cancel this and this division. Want a few more garrison units to populate the colonies. Yeah, you're right about it as a South Tyrol, why the Italians took it. Well, I think they took it for multiple reasons. I've sort of driven through there once, maybe twice. No, yeah, yeah, once through here. The other time I came back this way driving. But it does sort of secure the Italian border a little bit. You got to realize, I mean, today, and of course you have which really sort of, in my opinion, starts with what Wilson's 14 points that he gives up all of them to get the League of Nations, but and I can't rattle them all off, but the idea of local self-determination of ethnic groups as to what governments is going to be. That's where that often really sort of gets a lot of popular consensus elements. That the idea that a nation should be made up of just one ethnic group kind of thing. And so you have, historically, a lot of this region owned, managed, ruled, governed, and it can vary at different times and parts to those things, including down to literally owned by the Habsburgs. And sometimes in history, it may very much look like an Austrian occupation, especially towards the end. And other times it very much may be more of, because Habsburg sometimes were representing the Spanish monarchy and peoples and coming into southern Italy. Then later that switches over to the Bourbons. So you have the ideas that, it isn't necessarily divided up by ethnic groups. Now, so I totally agree at the time, at least. I don't know what it is today, what the ethnic minority is, or majority minority here. You can definitely see here having these mountains here owned by a possible threat could readily mean your armies pouring down into Italy, where if you can get up and hold the mountain passes, I think the Brenner Pass is more over here. I'm not 100% on my geography, but hold some of the passes a little bit better. You can, you can shut down an invasion route a little bit better. Also, of course, as you see, just the simple land grab element that the Italians, they get Trieste, and I think they also, no, did they take this? I don't know, and they take up some of the other islands along here. So they were just partially just greedy. I can believe that it's a German minority, but today, so sort of that kind of thing. So that's why I understand why they took it, why the Italians wanted it. Okay, so we've gotten rid of we have this, which is not as bad. Still not good, but not as bad. So we've got rid of that Black Friday. Now we can do approach Poland. That's just 35 days. We can do other things like that. We can do the political power. That's liquidate unprofitable Junkers. That's really good for political power. But we can ban French organizations. We can do Eastern promises. We can do experimental research, subsidize Siemens. Maybe we should do, yeah, we should do some of these others. Let's do military expansion, that's going to be 21 days, so we'll do that. As long as that doesn't have any major negative consequences, we can delay other things by that amount of time. Yes, you're saving. Okay, now you're done saving. Okay, report from the Middle East. Our Secret Service reported that Egypt, together with other states in the Middle East, is planning to dismantle the Ottoman Empire in the future. Such drastic steps are a direct threat to the stability of the entire Middle East. The arrangement set up by Peace with Honor signed in 1921. What shall we do? We cannot allow this to happen. Okay, that didn't give us very much choices. Okay, yeah, that would be good. Interwar artillery. Good. But we're going to come over to here and do construction. Okay. New textbooks gets rid of the old. Here. Okay. Erich von Ludendorff dies. Yes, this is about the time when he died historically. Even after his death was reported this early. Even after his death reported early, Erich von Ludendorff remained one of the most controversial persons in recent German history. On one hand, he was the hero of the Weltkrieg, the orchestrator of the German victory in 1919. On the other hand, most Germans haven't forgotten his ensuing military dictatorship that only ended when Admiral von Tirpitz forced him to retire after the infamous Ost-Hilfe scandal. East Help scandal, I guess, I don't know. In early 1924, although Ludendorff still received some honors for his service, his knighthood, the former quartermaster general mostly led a secluded life at his estates after. Now, I don't know how much of you guys know about Ludendorff. He was a right-wing radical. He, for a while, was allied with Adolf Hitler and the National Socialists. Now, of course, sort of, I don't know, infamously, with the Birchau Putsch, but even after that, he continued a real sort of right-wing party and group that fell apart, but he continued with a magazine that was allowed to be published even under the Nazis. The Nazis, for all their control, there were some groups that they had trouble getting rid of, shall we say. And it was, in some ways, some of the stuff, and because I'm just going from what other people say about it, because I don't read German, and I've looked at covers and some inside pages of some of his magazines, but other than maybe, because as you can sort of know, I get Weltkrieg, World War, you know, I get some German words, but to like read the context and understand what a paragraph says, I can't do that. So I'm taking this on what other people say about it. But it was a lot of radicalness that was maybe more radical than the not National Socialist radicalism going on. That he and it was often his wife. I don't know if it was the second wife, but was also helped very much in sort of pushing this ideology going and whatnot. So he very much is sort of around on the extremist fringes, and extremists as in more extreme than the Nazis of National Socialist Germany and going up, and he dies. I just sort of know about this mainly because I have an event in Third Reich Events that covers it, including some photographs, which this is not one of his funeral, which was actually fairly well attended and fairly big in National Socialist Germany. So him being a dictator is not unreasonable, or you know, it's quite likely. Okay, so now we have this guy. So let's create a new general group here, and we're starting now. Well, we got plenty. Kopner. Not that we really need to protect ourselves from Lithuania, but maybe we should even move further east, and I don't know. So that's sort of who Ludendorff was. And a lot of this goes back to the pre-World War I, so obviously pre-Nazi. I don't know how a movement that was going on. Sort of one of the main thinkers of it was Guido von List, and some of these other elements. A lot of it are wrapped up in an occult element going on, and so there's a lot of this right-wing stuff that was going on well before World War I starts. Okay, so we have that, and we're also going to take the 35 days and finish the Navy plan. I know we could do more over here, but which will help us get there, but well, it's only 35 days. That isn't so bad. But I want to not forget these, and so we're going to take the time to do this. Volchicks. Yeah, could be. Now, of course, any of you who are watching this at least early on, and I may later put it up, but if you want to go over to Twitch, you can see the should be recording the Twitch chat down in the corner of the episode. Oh, forgot to say go forward. Okay, we're increasing in stability now. We are just at low stability. Okay, General, why are you putting 2 divisions here when there's already a division from another? Another general holding that province. May not be holding that border so much, but he's holding the province. Now, I would understand that AI if you had enough divisions to fully hold the border. All the rest of the border provinces. Okay, syndicalists take over the Netherlands. Ooh, we're now facing possible enemies here, which is not good. Okay, well, we have our sort of reserve army. I was looking at that. Let's save the game, select all. I plan on doing this mostly micromanaging things, but just in case we get too many fronts. Oh, the Tron McLean explodes. President. That's the guy. That's the name from Die Hard. I presume all of you know that, but so okay. So the British have a Die Hard like tragedy. Yeah, I understand the idea of one language, one culture, and it makes a lot of sense. So, I sort of wonder why everybody in Europe is like, we want European Union. First syndicalists held in Paris, interesting, dealt with increasingly ideological representatives from the entire world greeted by the British artillery, salute the Scottish bagpipes. Okay. Unassigned divisions. Oh, those are some of the guys out here in Asia and whatnot. Well, mentioning that, let's secure our brief sort of borders here.
All right.
One to each province. Oh, get out of my way.
All right.
And you up to there. Okay, German reaction to the Second Congress of the Internationale. The Congress has been received with anxiety in Germany, with the economic crisis still not completely solved. Every increase in the socialist activity is a threat to the Middle Europa and the German Empire. In his latest speech, the Kaiser has condemned the syndicalists, but words are not enough. Action should be taken. We will have to react somehow. Okay. Interesting Dutch flag there. Okay, and just in case, let's select all. Just in case we are too busy with other things if war breaks out. Oh yeah, well, you see, you're sort of in lime green for me, so it's a little hard to read. Salus5 just said, I've never had a problem with people of different races living together. It's just I don't like different cultures living together. Okay. And that is a very interesting and... Hey, Alexander Large, 1962. Yes, the Dutch have gone syndicalist. But back to the idea of different cultures. Okay. I am not a racist. I grew up and live still currently in Los Angeles County. So I have been constantly and am always around people of both different races and different cultures. So I have grown up in that environment. I know many of you who watch this, not just now on Twitch, but on YouTube, have grown up in a single culture. Not many of you. I'm not saying all of you, because I'm sure there's British people growing up in London that have many different cultures around them. You know, because I visited there and know that. But if you're living in some rural part of Germany, say, or Norway, or I know there's at least one guy who has, I guess, a VPN and is able to watch YouTube from Iran. You know, very much may grow up and live around a single culture in Iran. So it's not like just, and quite a few viewers down in Brazil, and there's Indian cultures out in the bush or whatever you want to call it, the jungle. But basically, all of Brazil is one culture, you know. So a lot of these people have not grown up and lived around people of different cultures. Now, Brazil is definitely a multiracial country. That's different. So, and yes, this is controversial in this modern politically correct world. So I've grown up and known people of different races, and some of, say, let's say, well, because I've studied Japanese language and stuff, I've known Japanese people that were Americans. and they, I'm sure, have cultural influences from Japan, but they are in essence very much Californian. And then I've known Japanese that grew up in Japan and moved to America. And those two different types of Japanese are very different because of their different cultures. And have different attitudes. They have different ways of walking and body language. And it just goes to the core of their of how they behave, you know, their body languages, the way they move. A Japanese person moves different than a Chinese person. I can normally, if I can see people walking, I can often pick out a difference, you know, in a crowd. Oh, that person's Japanese and that person's Chinese by looking at their back and seeing the way they walk. Oh, I understand you don't hate. I wasn't putting any sort of idea of hating different cultures, and I'm not talking about hating different cultures either. And so it's very much like I say, I can, from the way people walk, and we'll get into other things someday with me, but the way people walk and the way people move is something that I identify on. So I can see somebody from, say, particularly maybe Vietnam, maybe more familiar with that, somebody who's born and raised in Vietnam and somebody who's born and raised in Japan. You can put them on identical clothing, put them in a sea of other people, you know, including maybe Asians, but pick out that person is Japanese and that person is Vietnamese from the back of their head, just by the way they move, way they walk. I can spot that. So, and I'm using two Asian groups to sort of single this out, because they do move, especially Vietnamese and Japanese, move very differently. And this comes down to culture. Now, that element of culture, what you sort of grow up in, you maybe can't really change because it's where your parents chose to live. Did they move around a lot? So you live some years in Asia, some years in America, and some years in Europe. And so you may turn out to be some sort of a mush, shall we say. I'm not saying this in a bad way, but a mush of culture, so you don't trigger and look like, you don't walk like you're from Japan, because you've been around enough people. And you sort of, even the way you walk is influenced by other people, the way they walk around you as you grow up. So this is what I call myself a culturalist, because large groups of people, not individuals, mind, but large groups of people, I judge them based on their culture. Now, of course, we can go, I don't know, Finland, trying to find a non-provocative thing. They may have all, one race, one culture, and so their culture and their race may be all one. But you come to other parts of the world, you can really see a mix of races where I live. Now, I also have a mix of cultures where I live. And we can get along. And it's different here in America. Well, I'll get to the Americans, the way they walk. So I live in this environment in which we have people can live and buy and rent property anywhere they want. There's massive laws against discrimination on it. But you still see neighborhoods developing here in Southern California that are either basically Mexican. We sometimes say Hispanic because there are other Latin Americans coming in, but basically Mexicans, or they're basically black, or they're basically Asian. Now, we will also get a certain amount of middle class, shall we say, blacks or Asians or whatever, living in white neighborhoods. And they're not thought of as, they're not rejected or anything like that, because they're sort of, if you will, sort of middle class type black people. And so, and you get this sort of flow, and it sort of naturally plays out by culture, and which is often expressed in race. But like I say, it's different. So when you have peoples of different cultures, they have different values. Now, in America, more so than, say, let's look at France for the moment, where you had a lot of Algerians after the French lose the Algerian War. A lot of the Algerians who sort of liked European culture, liked the French, decide to immigrate to France to be in a modern world. Now, France, I think both the Algerians that were somewhat Francophile and as well as the French sort of rejected the idea of mixing in the Algerians into the French culture. So they remained separate and apart. And so now you get second and third generation Algerians and other Arabs living in France that now feel disconnected to the French society. So a lot of them have moved back to Islamic roots and are moving towards Middle Eastern or Arabic cultural viewpoints, because you have not had this integration, which happens much more in America. Many of you have consumed our media, but the media that we, I'm talking TV, movies, whatever, is a skewed version of America. It's not what America really is, for good or for bad. It's not really what's happening here. And some of you have visited, but if you've just only sort of visited a bit, you might not get the whole context, and you'll see the, what we can call the barrios here in LA versus the black neighborhoods that are very different. And I don't use the term ghetto out here in LA because it really isn't a black sort of ghetto area, though ghetto, of course, goes back to Jewish things. It's different. The black neighborhoods out here in LA are different than from what is you would find, say, in Chicago or in New York City or something. It's different. So you would spot those kinds of things, but it's different. So we live in this very sort of soup that gets melded together better than in most countries. So America is different than Europe. So I totally get the idea in Europe of where let's look at Belgium. They're traditionally a bicultural. You got the Flemings and the Walloons. The big thing is that they were Catholic and not Protestant, and so they had a bicultural country. Now, of course, you've thrown in a lot of Islamic cultures and other peoples that are really sort of tearing it apart. But so you could have a consensus that we're Belgian and we have two cultures, and it can work. But you can also idea that, we're Danish, say, and we're all going to be Danish. That works too. And they have different values and different sets. And that's what people, at least in modern PC America, don't understand, that cultures make people different. They really do. And the PCs believe that everybody's the same and everybody should be democratic and everybody should live the same way and it should all be the same. They don't understand, and they think culture is music, food, and language, and that's sort of all they really sort of look at when they hear culture, and they don't see a lot different. On walking, the way Americans walk has become, and I can look at it, especially a generation or two down from where I am. They become very loose, very sloppy. They look like what is it, a marionette puppet, like Pinocchio, on strings. The way they sort of flop and move around. And you can see that even in highly skilled sports athletes, though you don't see it in dancers. If you look at a dancer, someone who's grown up dancing, male or female, they have a very different, precise way of walking. And you can also see it if you've had not just kids who've gone to karate class, but if you've had kids who grew up really sort of studying the martial arts in America, they'll maintain a way of movement. But you're right, Americans are sort of loose and disjointed, and I noticed that. And I don't entirely, you don't see who I am and how I move, but I move differently than most Americans, the way they move. But like I say, I really, it's something I pick up on, and I'm not going to go into too much more here. It's just too easy to take out of context of why I notice these things. But the way people move is different. Now, well, you say hug all the time. Well, that's not the case at all. Americans don't hug much at all. I'm trying to think. Outside of, cousins, like a female cousin hugging me at, that I haven't seen in a year at Christmas time or something like that. I don't think I've been hugged in the last 10 years by anybody who, even if I know them well, good friends. Americans don't hug. I don't know where you're getting that. Now, we say great a lot. I'll give you that. And volume, it varies from region to region, and yeah, I'm different than some other ones. But so it's, the way people do stuff like that is different. So I don't know where you're getting the hugging thing. Okay, most American media is upper class viewpoint of society and due to the vast size there is major. Oh yes, you're very right about the class distinction for our media, and it is very coastal. Our media focuses on our coasts, either really what is mostly the sort of Los Angeles, California culture, or it's sort of the New York-based regional culture. It's more than just New York, but it's sort of that. It is a very different look at the way America is. Well, I don't know. You may just be awkward, but well, it very well could be. And I have visited New York. Well, I've not visited New York City as an adult. I think I was a teen when I was last in New York. As an adult, I think the farthest I've been east. No. Yeah, no, okay, as an adult, or because I was in college, I went to Washington, D.C. for a week and a half. But, it's been a long time since I've been in New York. What you'll find in New York City and in Chicago and some of those other regions, which I'm not personally very familiar with, though I've known people, they're very segregated by neighborhoods. And it talked a little earlier, it sometimes shows up as, black neighborhoods. Everybody in the world knows Harlem or something like that. But it also very much, and this is something that doesn't happen out in the West Coast, Polish neighborhoods, Italian neighborhoods, Irish neighborhoods, they still very much exist in these cities. And sometimes where the edges are may shift by a block or two, but supposedly they stay around, and much more so than I'm used to on the West Coast. And you will find things that if you get out of particularly my culture, my background is all family background is all British Isles, or basically Britain. I don't know that I have any Irish in me, but it's Scottish and English. And so, but I'm working around people of a lot of, just about every job I've ever had, there's Mexican Americans or Mexicans working there as well. Many of them have had black people, and then Asians and all kinds of other people. And then obviously the white people that are out here in California are a complete mix from all over the world of white people, including people like coming from places like Australia, I'm sort of saying, as well as Russia or Canada or South Africa. I've known people from all of those countries, and they very much see it as a more of a standoffish thing outside of maybe a cultural family group. But I could see possibly Italians or other types coming out of New York and some other places that may hug a bit more. Yeah, and you know, this is one thing. A lot of people don't understand the scale of America. The scale is just huge. And when I was living, I lived for a little more than 6 months. No, a little more than 4 months or something, in Scotland. And I was living in Edinburgh. But at times I would drive out to the Highlands to spend the day with somebody, and they go, "Hey, well, do you want to spend the night here? You could spend the night here." And I go, "No, I'll just drive back. It's just like 2 hours to get back to Edinburgh." And to me, that was like, from a Californian, it's a longish drive, 2 hours each way to spend a day with somebody, but hardly unheard of if you look at the size of this state. Where I've been informed, partially by my cousin who went to college in Rutgers here, that just outside of New York City, that for some of these New Jersey girls in college, it was like going to a different country to go to New York City. And she was like, "Hey, I've been there, just over, and I'll just take you and come with you." And these girls who had maybe been with their parents once to New York City, that's just this far away, and literally it's across the bridge in a river. It's like 20 miles from where they were or something, that they'd almost never been to New York City in their lifetime, like say just like once or twice with their parents. This is somebody in college. To a Californian, yeah, okay, it's a 2 hour, because traffic or something, it's an hour or 2 hour drive, or no biggie. We just go do it. We wouldn't, want to do it maybe, every day for a job, but it's like, where we'll easily, I very much try to avoid it. Think the longest was about a 45-minute drive each way to work for me in Los Angeles area. But you can easily have people that have a 90-minute drive each way to work. So that's an hour and a half each way. So that's 3 hours a day in the car. And that's not necessarily moving fast. That isn't moving at 60 miles an hour. That's stuck in traffic. So it's not necessarily that far away. It's just everybody's going to work at the same time or coming home to work at the same time in the car. So we're used to that. And so there's these different cultural differences. And so the details of the cultures of the South are different than different parts. Some of my family members moved to Boston and lived in this area, so I've learned a little bit about that. And that's different than New York. That's different than Washington, D.C. area. It just varies. Oh yes, they're very much still segregated, and it's a choice thing there, obviously. Oh, absolutely. This is like when I was talking about L.A. and the middle class neighborhoods. The middle class neighborhoods are mostly white because it's an economic thing, because a okay house can easily be $500,000. Okay, and okay, just it's all right. It looks nice house, where really fancy houses, sort of big lots, and not in the best neighborhoods, can easily be over $1,000,000. I've known people that live down on the beach, and they're sort of dumpy, dinky little house. They end up selling it for $2 or $3 million that they've lived in for a long, they bought way back in the 60s or the 70s. I've known people like that, and I'm talking almost a shack of a house. I don't want to overstate it too much, but actually down here in Orange County, down right on the beach, or within a block, and you could see the beach from their house, and well over $1,000,000. So if you're talking middle class neighborhoods, in where I live, it is economic. It is based, so it's going to be mostly white people, but it is not segregated by race. So it's a more cultural thing. Where you will have districts that are poor white, sort of middling white as well here, that kind of thing. And you'll very much, now once you get out of greater Los Angeles, and once you get out of San Diego, and once you get out of San Francisco, California becomes very white or Hispanic. You know, if you look at the greater population of greater Los Angeles County, it is huge. And so that's where you'll get your mixing of races of various types. You get outside of here, basically, if you were to draw a line from here, well, from here right down along this coast, down to here, that there, everywhere else is Republican red, is conservative, very much Republican red. That's the way it votes. But these sort of San Francisco, LA, and this sort of coastal area make up about 70% or more of the population. So it's all leftist and liberal. I happen to be a conservative living in leftist and liberal region. But so that's why you'll get some very conservative California representatives to the U.S. House. But the senators, because they're elected statewide, will all be extreme leftists. So it just, we have this sort of divide. You go up to, up to here, you're going to hardly see black people. Not that there's not any black people, but there's no big groups of them. It's going to be white or Hispanic. And that's just the way it is once you get out of it, out of the big cities here. Yeah, well, you get out of well, you can cheap housing in out in the desert, but you get out of L.A., you get into this part of America, housing is different. I have relatives living in Houston, and the size of their houses are immense for being a lot less than what we pay for in California. And it's just remarkable. Okay, well, let's get back to playing some of the game. Okay, we get guns from Middle Africa. Good. Why are they sending us guns if they're at war? Are they still at war? Yes, they're still at war. Why are they sending us guns? Ah, yes. Of course, there's always going to be individuals who don't fit the overall pattern. But in my previous work in politics, I saw registrations because what party you're registered is open record in the United States, and you can look at some neighborhoods in some of this area, in some that you'll get 70-80% of one party or another, or like conservative, 70-80% conservative, at least you used to. And so Spain has gone into a civil war, and big civil war. And so yeah, you will find some of that kind of stuff that doesn't fit the overall pattern. Oh, you mean Spain, why they went to civil war? Okay. Well, I think we like the Kingdom of Spain best. So let's start some Lend-Lease. I'll do 10. Let's do that. Now, should we send volunteers to Spain? Okay, we finished the Navy plan. National focus. Okay, the 1934 naval plan, the Kaiserreich Marine, stands as the strongest navy in the world in the year 1936, but many challenges will face it in the coming years. The expansionist Empire of Japan, the resurgent Commune of France. Both are key future enemies to unseat German naval supremacy across the world. 1934 have begun a large naval construction plan, and ships begun then are slowly being finished. However, with our naval industry is still limited, we have to limit ourselves to one area of production. Should we focus in the next 6 months? Battleships, carriers, or destroyers? Let's look at our current production. Okay, I sort of split it up instead of focusing on it. We have a carrier, we have a heavy cruiser, destroyer, and submarines. So, you guys have any carrier spam to win? Okay, well, that makes sense. So let's do that then. Okay. Oh, we can also do this. Yeah, we can afford the political power. Okay, foundation of the Belgrade Pact. Serbia, Romania, and Greece, the three Balkan members of the Entente, with all the revanchist views of their own, have recently gathered to a common table of negotiation and recently announced the beginning of the Belgrade Pact. While this pact puts a lot of focus on cultural discussions and preserving Baltic identities, it is also a military alliance between participants, seemingly directed at countries separating them and holding their ancestral lands. This new development is a big thorn in Bulgarian domination of the Balkans, but only in coming reaction to other Central Powers determine whether it will yield any fruit. Okay. That is sort of kind of out of our main area of citizens leave for the Baltics. Okay, well, there. Now, we need to. Okay, we've done the Navy plan. These are good, like supply lines and whatnot, but I think we need to continue to get out of Black Friday here. So, let's approach Poland. See if that helps. Okay, the Russian Empire declared war on the Ash Orda. The Ash Orda, okay. I hope that goes well for the Russians, I think. Kingdom of Greece changes diplomatic status with us, cancels non-aggression pact. Oh, that is not nice. And we even sold you Crete. Food from Middle Africa. Come on, you guys should be taking out Portugal instead of sending us food. Okay, the Commune of France is justifying war against us. Well, what do you know? Oh, we need to... although we're not getting any of our... oh, well, they're delivering 16, so... but we need more... Who do we want to get 9 more oil from? No, I've never played Darkest Hour. I don't own that or any other Hearts of Iron 2 product. I hear a lot of good things about it. Yeah. Well. Yeah, let's support Huey Long and buy some oil from there. There we go. That'll help our production. Now, how are we doing with? Okay, well, we need more infantry equipment. I do want to do that oil. Okay, guys. I don't know. Maybe I know you guys.
Bereit!
Well, let's trash your defensive plans. Put you on trains, just because they may be coming after us.
Ausrücken!
Early and often. And maybe we also don't need to garrison the Polish border either, so let's... Hello, Ricketer the Dutchman. No, they're not dead just yet, not at war, though they did go syndicalist, so we might end up fighting them sometime soon. Nothing personal against them, it just... no, select all.
Bereit!
Yes, we are shifting to the French border. If we go to war, I want to crush Belgium or the Netherlands fast. Yeah, well, they've already gone syndicalist, and I don't know that we can do that practically because we are politically powered out. Okay, Belgrade Congress argues for a new order in the Balkans. On the initiative, Serbia, several countries have convened in Belgrade to discuss the political and military situation in the Balkans. During this Congress, a new military alliance was founded, so-called Belgrade Pact. This is clearly aimed against our former ally Bulgaria, of whom the countries have lost territory and Weltkrieg. If we openly announce our support for Bulgaria, it may help the Belgrade Pact from yeah, we're going to announce support here, you think? Yes, that is a good idea, putting them in Belgium. Should we support our Bulgarian friends? You think? So yeah, let's do that. Oh, well. Okay, so let's move these guys here. These will be a von Schlieffen-like maneuver unit up and around here. We can take...
Bereit zum Ausrücken!
Oh, well. Should we send volunteers? Let's send volunteers. They'll come back. Well, if we go to war, 3 divisions. Kudarian. They'll come back if we go to war. Don't know if 16 divisions is enough, but... Okay, more food. You're at war with Portugal. Wait, come on. Okay, well... I'll kill... Okay, these guys, yeah. That's probably the best move. What I wanted to do is come in and cut them off here. And... see if we can do that. I'd rather stay at peace for a few years and, you know, use expeditionary forces. Okay, so we are only down by a little bit on rifles. I wanted to get all of our various political problems. Okay, approach Poland, good. Okay. Brentano's speech yesterday in the early afternoon, Zentrum politician Henrik von Brentano gave an impassioned speech on how the differences of the past must be laid aside in order to create a stronger European economic bloc that included even nations with which we have had our differences. Okay, so we gain a little bit of political power there. Good. Now we can finish Black Friday reforms. I think that is our best 70 days, yes. Okay, where are we? Here we are.
Angetreten. Ausrücken.
Okay, get on the train and get up there. Okay, well, at least they're doing okay against Portugal at the moment. Just please don't get into a wider war. Okay, let's slow this down a little bit here. Wait till we get organized. Okay, dispersed industry, that is very good. And let's do Signals Company. And now machine tools. We've got that. Oh, looks like we have some Commonwealth support as well here.
Befehle. Bereit. Ausrücken. Beschuss. Bereit.
Oh good, we've cut them in half.
Befehle. Ausrücken. Achtung.
What this is doing is it's tying up all of these. Well, it declared war on the Kingdom of Estonia. Okay. What are we facing up here now? Oh, we've had a breakout of civil war. It looks like they really love civil wars, don't they? The developers of this thing. So I'm blocking this group. So hopefully that these guys go in and take this province instead of them going and spreading out. Okay, George Michaels dies. Former Reich Chancellor George Michaels died today at age 78, succeeding von Berthen Hedwig of the Imperial Chancellor. This is the first. Okay. Okay, I don't know how much that affects us. Yes, the Baltic Wars. Should we intervene in the Baltic Wars? We got 2 divisions there. Put them under von Manstein.
Ausrücken.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see if we can do that. Oh no, we can join their war. Am I clicking the right place? Or no, I don't want to join their war. Don't want to go to war.
Befehle. Befehle. Zuhören.
Okay, everybody on Twitch, just stay where you are. I'm just going to end the episode, and we're going to play another episode coming up right now. But as you guys on YouTube watching later can tell, we are ending the episode here, and I want to thank everyone for watching, and thank you for liking the videos. I really do appreciate that. And if you haven't already, you can subscribe to me on YouTube or follow me on Twitch. Love to see you around more often. And would you, if you like, please post questions, comments, suggestions, ideas. What I can really do is tips, because I'm getting a lot of good tips from the Twitch chat. But if you've got more for me, love to learn it better. Thanks so much. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.